My guest today is Tracy O'Shaughnessy, founder of Branding and Beyond. Tracy's been in branding and web design since the early 90s, but about 11 years ago, a nightmare client and an 8-year-old with some brutally honest advice changed the entire direction of her career. I will let her tell that story. It's quite a funny one. But today, Tracy works exclusively with commercial building trades, general contractors, specialty trades, MEP firms, and facility services. Companies running multi-million-dollar operations behind websites that look like they were built in a garage. She calls that a brand wedgie. And if that doesn't make you want to keep listening, I don't know what will. When she's not rebranding contractors, Tracy lives in a house with over 20 paint colors because apparently even her pantry deserves a personality. I love that bio for you, Tracy. You're very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I am very excited to interview you today because you are one of the very few people that first got me interested in branding, etc. And you are an absolute queen of knowledge when it comes to branding and how to do it right. So very excited for this session. So we'll just jump straight in. How did you get into branding and entrepreneurship?
Well, I came up in the dot-com bubble. And I'd always freelance, but, in the dot-com bubble, especially in Austin, money was flying, like huge, like millions and millions of dollars were just flying around, and everyone had a startup, but most of it was superficial fluff and, companies that went nowhere and closed. And when they ran out of multiple, their 5th round of funding or whatever, the first department that would get cut was marketing. And, you can't go without developers or sales, but marketing. So after about 3 layoffs, I decided I was tired of having other people in charge of my livelihood. And I was watching dumbass decisions happening left and right, and then I get laid off. I wasn't fired, I was laid off. And I'd always freelanced. So I decided to give it a go. And that was about 1999. And that started it. And it didn't take long. I was busy. I didn't have to, after the first couple of years, I didn't really have to hustle too much anymore. I had repeat and referral and all was going well until it wasn't. I'm going to get into that story.
I love that. Do you know what? You are a master storyteller of like everything was going great until it wasn't. And
it wasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you want to kind of give us a little bit of background into the 8-year-old with
we can definitely jump into that. So I was running my business, and I had a lot of clients I really liked and some that I didn't, and that was just kind of running a business, right? Until this guy John shows up. And this was my very first passive-aggressive gaslighting narcissist. Never run into that before. Typically, I can connect with clients. I can read between the lines. I can see what they need. And let me back up a minute. In the beginning, I was marketing myself as a graphic designer because that was my education. And I was doing a lot more than that. I did strategy work. I kind of gave it away, though. I gave it away for free. And so this guy, I pissed him off in the first meeting and he still hired me. And I got the meeting based on a colleague, and I really wanted to work with this colleague, and the project sounded great and the funding was good. And I met with them at a coffee shop, and he lays out what he wants to do. He basically has a plan and just wants an executioner. And I should have gotten up then, because that hires just a true freelancer for that, or a VA now. But I kept going, but I could see what he was doing wasn't going to work. And so I was throwing out ideas, and me and the other colleague were riffing on it, and it was sounding great. And then all of a sudden the guy gets up and he said to the colleague, he said, "It's your decision." And he walks out, and I was like, what just happened? And she said, "I have never seen him so pissed in my life." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, his lips were pursed," which, he was sitting to the left of me, and I was looking at her and back and forth. So I wasn't necessarily seeing that. And I don't think he liked that you were overwriting his initial, not, praising him with his ideas. And I'm like, well, it wasn't going to work. She goes, I know. So I was like, so now what? And she said, well, he said that it was my decision, so I'm hiring you. And I thought, okay. But part of me was like, I can piss this guy off, but he still wants to work with me. I'm such a badass. What I didn't realize is this was the beginning of a lot and lots of problems. And in person, he would be, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I want. But in emails, it was, I hate everything. And I couldn't figure out what am I not understanding? And my inner people pleaser was coming out. And I was like, oh, I'll figure this out. I will find the through line. I will make him happy. Damn it. And one weekend, after working all weekend, I come out of the home office and I'm in the hallway and I run into my 8-year-old son, who said, what's wrong? And I said, well, I just got off the phone with John and I'm just, this is a tough one. And he just flatly says, fire him. I'm like, what? And he said, fire him. And okay, a little bit of backstory. He has overheard so many webinars and trainings on being an entrepreneur and running a business while he played video games in my office. And he was apparently listening. And he also enjoyed watching The Apprentice at the time and was dying to tell somebody they were fired. So he says this, I'm gobsmacked. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, I can tell when you're working on his stuff. You're sad, you're not happy, you're grumpy, like, fire him. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're probably right. But I'm not done with the project and he owes me a ton of money. And, and he was like, no, Mom, fire him. Give me your phone. Where's your phone? Let me fire him. An 8-year-old. But he could see what I couldn't, that this guy, I let him into my business. I let his energy into my business. And he was stomping on all of my creativity. He was gaslighting me. He was undermining me. He was, and it wasn't just him I was having a problem. It was cascading to my family, to the poor client I would talk to after John, to everything. And I had gotten to a point, and the team members I was working with at the time were also to the point of, we don't want to do this anymore. And I was flirting with, I'm going to go get a real job. And, that magical paycheck that just shows up in your bank account, and the paid time off, and the leaving work at 5:00. And that whole thing I fantasized for, maybe 30 seconds. And then I remembered I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years and I'm too freaking feral to work for anybody else. So that's not going to work. So now what? And, I really thought about it. I was like, what went wrong? Like, I know I love my job. I know I love finding the thing that the client can't see. They know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is, and they don't know where to start, and they don't know what to do. And I love that part. Why do I hate my job right now? So I really started investigating it. And I realized that, one, I was projecting that I was a graphic designer on my website. I only had a single page website because I kind of felt, I can't work on my stuff because I have all this client stuff to work on. I mean, that would be rude, right? It'd be just rude to work on my stuff when I've got all this to do and I've got all these deadlines to meet. And I also had much pride in the beginning in being a generalist. I mean, if it had a logo on it and you had a problem to solve, and a paycheck or a checkbook, hell yeah, let's dig in. So I realized that I didn't have a brand foundation. And then it was, I was so mad at myself because I was like, I do this for other people. And then I was completely blind that I was ignoring my own stuff, like completely blind that I was doing this. So turned out, so I had a weak and outdated foundation, who I was as a company, what I gave a damn about, the type of people I wanted to work with. All of that was not present. I mean, it was present in me, but it wasn't out there. Like nobody else could see it. I was dealing with brand decay because I'd spent time servicing clients and ignoring my own branding and positioning, over time, I became invisible because it'd been, honestly, I didn't update my website for 10 years. Like, I was like, I'm getting business. I repeat and referral. I don't have to hustle anymore. I'm fine. Until John showed up. And I'm like, why did John show up? What about me made John find me? Like, I wanted John to, the ultimate goal is the bad, it's not bad, the bad fit clients.
Bad fit client, yes.
Are automatically rejected by your content. They're like, oh yeah, she's not for me. And I didn't have any of that. You know, I didn't have a specialty. I didn't have a niche. I stopped actively marketing because I was fine. I also didn't have a qualification system. And at the time, I read this book by Michael Port, Book Yourself Solid, and the first chapter smacked me in the face. It was all about having a red velvet rope policy. So treating your business like a high-end hotel's bar on the top floor. That they don't let just everybody in. They let in the people that are the best fit, because the best fits allow you to do your best work. And so you're excited you get to do your best work. They're excited you get to do your best work. They're talking about you because you did your best work. And I was not doing that. I mean, I had the problem, I can solve a pulse in a checkbook concept that needed to go out the window. And I needed to figure out what was my filtration system. What was I willing to put up with? And what was I no longer willing to put up with? And I realized all the red flags I ignored. I ignored so many red flags because it was a project I wanted to work on. The budget was good. I wanted to work with this colleague, you know, and then I had this pride of, I pissed him off, but he still hired me, which was just total bullshit. I realized that I needed to fire some clients. I needed to upgrade some clients that were not duds, but they could be better clients, figure out how to upgrade them and how to attract the right clients. So I wrote down on a big piece of paper, and I wish I could find it. It's around here somewhere. All my clients and the ones that I was excited to pick up the phone when I saw the caller ID, and the ones that I wasn't, and what was the difference? What did I like about these? And what did I not like about these? And I realized that even though I grew up in the high-tech world, I hated working for high-tech clients. I hated working for startups because a lot of it was superficial BS. I really liked construction and building trades. And most of the clients I really liked fell in that. And I was like, okay, what is it about them? They value skill. They're going to hire skill and leave you to do your damn job so they can go do their damn job. And they're not going to be nitpicky about budgets. I mean, they're going to say, I want it cheaper, obviously, but they're not going to be nitpicking the invoice at the end because they value skill. And they know you're going to charge for your skill. And so I figured that out, fired a bunch of clients, fired John. I didn't let Tim do it, even though he really, really wanted to. You have no idea. And I wish I could find the video. So Tim and Frankie did a sing dance-off riff on You're Fired, on why he was fired and the whole thing. It was hilarious. And Tim made me a hand-drawn birthday card that year that said, bad client, like it was me, and I had a big smile, and I had like a bubble above my head, and it was like the poof gone away symbols, you know, and it said bad clients. So they were all gone, and everything just kind of started to feel better, and a weight was lifted. But I was still so mad at myself for letting this happen. And I knew this was happening to other people, that accidental commodity that just by working with clients and doing what you built the business to do and not focusing also on yourself as a client, that over time you become invisible, and you know your client base knows your worth, but outside people don't, and they come to you for what you're projecting. And I was projecting I was a graphic designer, and they would get so much more, and they were thrilled that I could do all this other stuff, but they didn't want to pay for it because that's what they came for. So when I really realized how much strategy I was giving away, I pivoted to branding and brand strategy, and writing I no longer let clients write any of their website content. I can't imagine letting clients write their own content now. I was just talking to Amanda about that yesterday. I was like, could you imagine letting them just supply, or like requiring them to supply all their content? Like, they don't know how to talk about what they do. They don't know the goodies that live inside. That's my job to go find. So that was a lot of story, but that was like my origin story, but it took dumbly 10 years to get there. And it took a narcissistic client to, and my Yoda son in the hallway.
Fire him, you should. No, I love it. And I think that one, maybe Tim should offer that as a career option of, hey, I'll come in and fire all your bad fit clients. But two, I love that story. And I think there's so many golden nuggets to take in there. Kind of we have this idea when we first get started, or if we've been in this world for a little bit longer, that we need to work with everybody. But we're not built for making everybody happy and doing work. We're not hands for hire. Kind of like you said, strategy is the main feature for most agencies. And you are a prime example of that, because I think you've had that experience yourself. So now you understand your clients when they get potential leads that are looking for cheaper pricing, and that's just a race to the bottom. And when you rebrand your customers and they're shown as more than just a dude in a truck, that they've got years of experience, they've got fantastic skill sets, they've got a great team behind them, they're qualified, it's worth a little bit more, and you get what you pay for. And I think that's a huge thing. And I love that niching, and I love the fact that you're very, very clear with who you want to work with as well. I think there's a lot to be learned from Ms. O'Shaughnessy, for sure. Just in that first 10 minutes of the podcast. So just
avoid the pain. Avoid the pain. Create your velvet rope policy of what you're willing to put up with and what you're not. I mean, that in addition to a niche is gold. And it just dumbfounds me that I didn't have that. In fact, I kept having reoccurring dreams that I didn't have shoes. I was going to a meeting. I was in my car. You know how you kick off your shoes sometimes in the car? And you're like, I got the heels in the car. I'm halfway to the meeting and I don't have shoes. And I have to figure out, do I stop and go to a store, or is it too early, that none of them are opened, and be late, or do I show up without shoes? And then usually it was, had I recently had a pedicure? There were some stupid things in there in my dreams, but I kept having this dream. And I was working on a speech for Toastmasters, and I was going to do something about no shoes, and it dawned on me, my brain was trying to tell me that I was basically a cobbler without shoes. And it was like midnight, and I'm downstairs in the kitchen, and I was like, holy bleep. I was like, this whole time, my brain is trying to tell me you're a cobbler and you make freaking shoes and you don't have any, you dumbass.
I love that.
And then that dream stopped happening. It was like this big anxiety dream. You show up naked to school, that kind of thing. For me, it was I would show up to a meeting without shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't
without a solid foundation. There you go.
You can't walk into a building without shoes. That's uncivilized. So,
well, you could walk in without any shoes, but you wouldn't be
could. And I wasn't taken seriously. I mean, the analogy worked so well. And I mean, considering how many of those dreams I had, I can only think my psyche was trying to beat me over the head until John finally and Timothy finally did the work for it. My brain was like, freaking finally, woman, what does it take?
Do you know what? Sometimes it takes the absolute worst client ever for us to go, okay, I'm not putting up with any of this anymore. And I think that's, I think John was your tipping point for sure.
Yeah, he was the worst, but I had a couple of bad fits. And I was looking back and I was like, I really haven't had many of those at all. But that year there were like 3. John was by far, I mean, working with a passive aggressive narcissist gaslighting idiot will
Life is too
definitely wake
short.
you up. Yeah, life
Yeah.
is too short. And no money is good enough to put up with that. Mm-mm.
No, no, you couldn't pay me 10,000 an hour to put up with
Mm,
someone like that. I
agreed.
just,
Agreed.
mm-mm,
Agreed.
no, yeah.
100%.
So we've kind of had a look at the type of people that you
Mm-hmm.
enjoy working with.
Right.
What do you love most about what you do?
I love the discovery. I love the digging. Because a lot of clients are like, I'm a general contractor. There's 50,000 general contractors in town. I don't know how we're not different. They do good work. We do good work. And I'm like, you have been in business for, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. And you have repeat and referral business. There's a reason. It's probably not because you're the cheapest. So we need to figure out what that is and align what you do and all the goodies on the inside, your passion, your experience, all that kind of stuff with what your clients give a damn about most. And I've just got to interview a bunch of people. I need to dig in. You need to tell me about your business. You need to tell me about, discovery. And I love that part because I can see the through line that they can't because they're inside the jar. It's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar kind of thing. And I love that part. And I also love after they've lived with the new brand for, 3 to 6 months, it's usually, it fits. Like, this is who we've always been. Like, how did we not see it? I was like, well, because I went through it, I have no projection of shame on them. I was
Yes.
like, I get it. You're so busy doing the thing you built the company to do. You very seldom look back at the brand you built, which is maybe a website, maybe a name and a logo. It might not be more than that. And figure out if it fits or have it grow with you as you evolve and change. And very few of them ask their clients, why did you choose us? Why did you come back to us? They're just like, well, we're friends now. We can have a beer together, that kind of thing. But there's goodies there. If you've been in business that long and you have repeat and referrals, there is something to brand. I just have to find it. And with clients who've never been really professionally branded, they don't understand what goes on. And I have to explain them. I don't fabricate a brand. I find it. I am more of an archaeologist, and I find the goodies that are there, and then I wrap words and visuals around it so that a client or a prospect coming to your business can see you were built to solve their problem. And that's the goal. They need to be able to see and feel that. So I'm working for the client, yes, but I'm actually jumping over them, putting my arm around their client, their prospect, looking back at the business and asking them, what do you need to see, feel, and hear in order to understand they're the fit for you? And most of the time it's we're professionals who've been in the business for 20 years and we have synergy or, whatever corporate BS words are there. And their website has tons of words, but they say absolutely nothing. And that's one of the banes of my existence is corporate BS speak that I want to get rid of. I mean, like, break the fourth wall and freaking tell them what you do, why you do it, and why you're a good fit and not maybe, So that's the part I love. I love that.
And you're very, very good at it, as we can see on your company website. I love the language. It is, it's like having a conversation with you, but in website form. And I think that is perfect copywriting. Kind of you are prepping the reader to get on Zoom with Tracy O'Shaughnessy and be like, okay, this is, she's going to be blunt if something is terrible, but be nice about it as well, and kind of get to the heart of it so that you can get the results that you want. So there's no corporate BS. It is literally, okay, this is where you're at. It's worked so far. Let's figure out how to get you to the next stage of your business.
Exactly.
So walk me through how you created your own brand. What kind of inspired you?
I grew up in a very anti-ad agency world and mindset because I saw so much fake in Austin, so much startup BS that I didn't want to be that. And I ran across so many websites that said nothing. And then my own website had said kind of nothing. Beyond, I'm a graphic designer, yay. So I had to figure out what I wanted to get across. And as you probably can tell, if people don't know me, I'm kind of a potty mouth. So, it's great that I'm in the construction industry because that does not offend them. It's not like I'm throwing around F-bombs constantly, but I'm going to call them on their stuff. I'm going to be compassionately blunt. I'm going to be blunt, but I totally understand where they are. And I want to help them get to the next level, whether that's they're working on an exit strategy, they want to be purchased eventually, they want to grow, they want to, whatever it happens to be, I want to get them to the next thing. But so for mine, I just wanted to break that fourth wall. I wanted to have copy that I would want to read, that makes me laugh, that also, if someone is uptight, they're not going to want to work with me. They're like, if they're, I don't know, because they could still be in my niche, but we're not a fit. So I wanted people who were a fit to be attracted to it. And it'd be different than any other agency site that is, fluff and it's all about them. Because another thing I didn't want to do is I'm not a boastful person. So I didn't want to be like a typical ad agency site that's super boastful. I want to talk about them and their problems. And I don't know if you read the bio on the site, but it's really about my clients.
Yes.
And, halfway through and I'm like, oh, right. Let me get back to the bio. I digress, and
I love that. I love that humanness in the bio because, so often either kind of bios are like super, super corporate of I did this, I've got this award, I've done that, right. Or it's got absolutely nothing about the actual person themselves. You've got a beautiful blend of, okay, I understand what you're looking for. It's this, and this is why. Oh, and a bit about me as well. Yeah. Here's a little bit of personality injected in there. And I love that. I think it's a good blend of, we don't have we-itis. There's a little bit of Tracy in there, but it's mainly kind of, hey, you're suffering with this, you want to do this, I understand, there's no shame, there's no judgment, let's sort it out and do amazing work. And if you're easily offended by the word shit, don't get in touch, so exactly. I like it.
And I also want them to be open to pushback, open to change. I'm not going to be a yes person. It's not, do you want fries with that? It's, let's dig into your company, lay it all out, and then rebuild it back up. I'm not changing the company. Well, some I actually do, but for the most part, I don't change the company. I just find out who they really are and figure out how to say that to their market and talk them into niching. And
yes. Yeah, I think you do a great job at uncovering who they really are. So for a lot of companies, when they think of branding, they think, oh, they're going to come in and kind of cover over what makes us us and, present us as something completely different, very corporate for, the general buyer. Yeah. And that isn't what a good brander does. And that's not what you do.
I mean, true branding isn't that anyway. Yeah. But it's also not just a visual redesign. I'm not going to say I remodeled my house, but I just really painted my front door. No. We're going to go in and kind of tear down any assumption and kind of rebuild it. The inner workings of the company is the same, obviously. It's just how we talk about the business, how we talk to certain markets. And, clients in the beginning, they were like, okay, well, you're just telling me my structure. And I'm like, it's more than that, because I'll detail out, these are all your products, these are all your services, these are the markets that you're in, these are all your customer types, like the job titles we talked to. And they were like, okay, we know that. And I'm like, that's just the beginning. Now we're going to interconnect these things and figure out the hierarchy of these clients. Like the majority come from this bucket. We probably shouldn't even be spending any effort with this other bucket. And they're like, oh, those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So with niching, and working with not the same kind of companies, but the general industries are very interconnected. How do you find new ideas and dig into really creative ideas for companies that might be quite similar?
Yeah. My niche isn't super tight. It's commercial building trades and everything that supports them. That's actually quite large. But I do find I get a lot of repeat types of clients. Like I have a lot of flooring industry. I have a lot of specialty care of surfaces, that kind of thing. Each company, even if they do the same thing, they do it in a different way. There's a passion in a different way. They specialize in different parts of it. So I've just got to find those bits, because I do have clients that are competitors. So I have to figure out how to have them live in the same space and not overlap in any way. And that is sometimes difficult, but it's not like I'm working in just residential HVAC that, in my city, and I have 10 clients in the same city, all vying for the same keywords, all vying for the same client pool. That I don't have, thank God. So mine is a little bit wider, but I do have overlap. And the key is just finding out who they are. And they're honestly uniquely different.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the sign of a good branding expert, is somebody that knows how to get those unique answers and positioning and differentiation out of someone who doesn't know what any of those words usually mean.
Yes.
I think, kind of when you get someone that's like, oh yeah, no, I'm a branding expert, and they come in and they've got, like 10 logo choices and 3 different companies choose the same one, basically. We're looking at a very different level of brand work here.
Yeah, and it's not just a visual branding. In fact, that's one of the last things I do, and it pisses clients off. I was like, we've got to do the foundation first. We've got to figure out who you are, what you do, who you work with, why they give a damn, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got to work on positioning and your core messaging. And once we've got that, then differentiation, and then we go on to the visual, because that will help, the visual understanding. But they want to get to the pretty as fast as possible, and I have to put it off, and they don't like that, but it's like, that's the way it works. We're not going to do the pretty first. And so do the interior design before you design the building. It's just, you can't do that. And then they finally, it's like, fine. It's like, it'll be worth it, trust me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Having a solid creative process is everything. And I think that it's sometimes difficult to get clients to follow it. Because like you say, they want to go to pretty, they want to see, actual results, which, both of us know that having strategic messaging and stuff is a lot more important and thorough research than being like, here's a logo for you. And, that's it.
Right. And, and the messaging sometimes takes a bit. I had a client in California that they had hired a new business development person right after I branded. And she wanted to come, and she sends me the whole website rewritten. And I'm like, and you are who? And what? So I was talking to the owner, and I'm like, did you say that she could do that? And she's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, we had to have some, heart-to-heart conversations, but she didn't understand why I was saying things the way I was saying it, because that's not how their industry did it. And then about 3 months later, she sends me an email and says, I need to apologize. This is really resonating with the prospects and our clients. And I'm noticing our competitors are now adopting our way of referring to things. And I was like, that will happen. And he's like, I didn't see it, but clients could see it, prospects could see it. And I was like, right, because it wasn't about you and you are not the target market, and that's hard to see past, because they're like, I don't like this. I want it this way. And I'm like, you're not the target. This
Yes.
isn't about you. Even if it's the owner, I mean, that was just a biz dev person, but even if it's the owner, and I've had to struggle with that too, it needs to be this. And I'm like, but that's not what you sell. I know you want to project you do that, but that's not, branding isn't about lying. It's about projecting an expectation of service or product or whatever it happens to be. We're setting an expectation. If you don't meet that expectation, it all blows up. I mean, we can be aspirational. I mean, we can be a little bit beyond where they're at right now, where they're going, but you can't out and out lie and a bait and switch, because it's going to blow up in your face.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And a really common issue that I find with companies that aren't comfortable with who they are or kind of who they're working with is, okay, but I want to project that I have like 4 different depots around the country and, a workforce of 1,000, but they have like 2 vans and a fantastic team of 7. And it's like, no, be proud of what you have, kind of attract good fit clients for what you have, not what, you're seeing from a guy across the road. And I think that's
bigger, that's not a problem, but you can't project your nationwide because it's just not reality. And then once clients, I mean, everybody's BS meter is so finely tuned because we're advertised to constantly that they're looking for inconsistencies. So that's one of the things that I tell clients, we've got to be clear and we've got to be consistent and we've got to look and sound as credible as you are in real life. And if any of those things are off, the BS meters are going off. And then they have objections and they're constantly having to deal with the objections. And if we can deal with those and calm that down in somebody, because they're like, oh, is it true? Is it real? Is it? And they're constantly poking. But if you project the right way, people feel confident in hiring you. I mean, they're still going to do their due diligence, but not to the level of an investigative journalist or something, Yeah.
Where it feels almost like an attack, but it's just because they've found completely different information about you online. And they're like, well, which is true? Why are you lying? I think people are so fed up with being lied to online. They're like, just give me what I want and what I need. And don't tell me any bullshit on the side.
I deal with that a lot because I'm dealing with clients who have been sold a bill of goods before. And they've spent a lot of money on a website or they spend a lot of money on whatever it happens to be. So they're coming with some PTSD and I've got to calm that down. So, I mean, we all have probably run into those situations where they've dealt with a writer that delivered crap. And you're like, but you're letting that past relationship damage your future because you're carrying that with you. And I understand being skeptical, but you're not seeing what's good in front of you because you've got all that baggage with you and you're so afraid of hiring the wrong person. And I get that, but it gets in the way of them accepting, hey, I'm the right person. We're a good fit. Let's do this,
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Well, it has been thoroughly enjoyable to chat with you today, Miss Tracy. I like to wrap up these sessions with a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind, because you've already given us so much good advice and so many golden nuggets. But what is the best advice you've ever received?
Besides my 8-year-old son to fire that client, which, just occurred to me now, that's probably the best, but it would be my dad. My dad worked for IBM his whole life. He was an idea guy. And I never remember my dad wearing a conservative suit. I mean, this is in the 70s. He was wearing burgundy suits and green suits and, like crazy colors. And then I learned later that IBM was black and navy. It's very conservative. And I asked my dad, how come you always were, whatever you wanted? And he said, well, because I'm the idea guy, I can get away with it. He said, you can be as funky as you want as long as you have your shit together. He said, because if you're really good at what you do, people will put up with eccentric. But if you don't have your shit together and you're, funky or eccentric or whatever, you're just a freak or a flake. And that really hit. It was like, you really have to have the goods in my mind. Well, now today everybody's got blue hair and, tattoos on their face or whatever. They might be damn good at what they do, but in my growing up world, you couldn't do that until you were damn good at what you do. And so that was always striving to be really good at what I do. Therefore, I can be eccentric. I can be myself. I can, have a potty mouth if I want to. I can build what I want because I'm good at what I do. And I'm aligning myself with the right market that's not going to be offended at that. And so that was good advice in addition to Tim. Fired about.
I think that's great advice. I think so often, kind of we see people that, kind of are all kind of flashy, but have absolutely no goods to deliver. And I think you got to put in the effort. You got to be able to deliver what you're promising. Especially, as a creative, I say this myself, if you are creative, you got to know how to deliver professionally as well, without just turning up and being kooky. We gotta give as good as we get.
In Texas, we would call that all hat, no cattle. So, you're projecting like you're this cowboy and you've got this big truck that's never seen dirt or a day of work. It's called a pavement princess. And you're not, you're not that. You're all hat, no cattle.
I love that. That's going on my rotor in my head of I love that. Brand new saying for today. Fantastic. Thank you. And last question, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone starting or growing their business, what would it be?
I would say find a niche that you either know a good amount about or you're very interested in, and have it as a side hustle. Validate that business model and save up at least 6-month runway and then leap. Create a repeatable system, have that red velvet rope policy conversation with yourself, and figure out who you want to work with. Because that's one of the best parts about being an entrepreneur is I don't have to say yes to everybody. I'm meant to work with some people and some others not so much. And that's a good thing, because Absolutely. I want to continue to work with people who let me do my best work. And then I get to do my best work for them. And then we're all happy.
What a wonderful end to the episode, folks. Thank you so much, Tracy. If people want to get in touch or connect with you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You can get to that by, since nobody knows how to spell O'Shaughnessy, Tracy, Tracy, LinkedIn.com, and that will forward to my LinkedIn profile, or brandingbeyond.com.
Wonderful. Tracy, thank you so much. Viewers, listeners, we will see you same time, same place, and have a great day, everyone.